guys, Paigesugarbutts here, and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to do a fun countdown on one of my favorite video game series ever, Resident Evil. I've played almost every game and I just love this series so much. So yeah, I wanted to look into games today that the Resident Evil series never got to release, which is like such a shame because there's like so many cool game ideas that they had that just never came to fruition, which is a shame, but like it happens obviously. Sometimes games just don't get developed the way that they wanted it to go or just get canceled for so many reasons. So today we're going to be looking at some of my favorite games that were canceled. Now obviously there are a lot of Resident Evil games that were canceled. Like I was looking through a whole bunch of them. So these are just the top 5 that are most interesting to me. But yeah, let me know if there's any versions that you guys like thought were really cool that were canceled. But yeah, these are in my opinion the top 5 like most interesting ones. And I just got as much info about them as I can, and I just wanted to talk about them. So number 5 is like one of the like newer ones that got canceled. It was called Resident Evil Hunk, which was obviously based off of the character from the Resident Evil series. I've always liked him. He's always seemed so cool, especially like in Mercenaries mode. I just always loved being a badass, being him. So it's just like really cool to think that there was going to be like a game completely based on him. It was announced way back in 2020 and it was supposed to be released in 2025, so like this year, but unfortunately it does seem that it was canceled. And unfortunately this game is just so low on the list just because we really didn't get that much info about it. Like I said, it was leaked in 2020 along with like some other Resident Evil games like Resident Evil Village and the Resident Evil 4 remake. So like we knew those games were coming and you know they've come and gone and already we've got those games, but no word about Resident Evil Hunk. So I'm pretty sure it's not coming. Huge bummer, but it would have been just so cool being able to have like a game based off him and maybe just getting more background to him, but it is what it is. Number 4 on my list is Resident Evil Revelations 3, which like, dude, I loved Revelations 2. Like Revelations 1 was pretty good as well, but I just love the second one so much. So like thinking that we had a third one that was canceled is like seriously such a bummer. The script for the game was actually like leaked in 2021 around that time, like some of the script, which is like kind of crazy, and it was initially going to be released in 2022, and again, not happening. This game would have been really cool because it would have involved Albert Wesker, which like who doesn't love to hate that guy. And it would have been set in 2003, that would have been like really cool. I don't have much more info about the game. Again, this was like one of those newer set games where they didn't give us too much information about it. But again, I love the Revelation series and it's just such a shame that the third one got canceled. But maybe in the future they'll, you know, try again. You never know. But as of now, no Revelations 3. Number 3 on my list is the original Resident Evil game being made for the Game Boy Color and maybe even the Game Boy Advance. It was intended to be released in 1999, but then it was sadly canceled in March 2000 after many delays. It obviously would have been a way more scaled down version of the original Resident Evil game, but I just think it would have been really cool to have like a portable version, even though it didn't have like all of the original bosses except for like Plant 42, I think. And yeah, it's just a shame. We did end up getting Resident Evil Gaiden in like December of 2001 or something like that, and I enjoyed this game. I played a bit of it. It's not even like canon to the series or anything, but it's fun. But like it would have been so cool to get like the original Resident Evil. Now, I have heard there is like some playable versions that fans have made of like the amount of gameplay that they did get done. I haven't got my hands on that or anything, but I'd look into it if you do want to get your hands on it. So that's pretty cool. At least it's not like completely lost or anything. But then a little while later, once the Game Boy Advance started, you know, being developed and started to become popular and stuff, they thought about making the Resident Evil port again, only for the Game Boy Advance. However, they didn't really think that fans would really want that, so they just like canceled it. But like, I would have wanted it. So it's definitely a shame. So we ended up pretty much only getting Resident Evil Gaiden, which again is fun, but it's not like the OG Resident Evil, so it sucks. Number 2 is all of the canceled versions of Resident Evil 4. For those of you that don't know, I mean, this is pretty much everybody's favorite Resident Evil game, so I'm not that original. But Resident Evil 4 is like one of my favorite horror games of all time. I even have a tattoo from it just because I'm so obsessed with it. But yeah, before we got the game that we know and love today, there were like 4 canceled versions of it. There was like versions of the game where it was like set in like a really cool gothic castle, and there were like ghosts and paranormal stuff, which seemed really cool, and I'm into that shit. But like I am really happy with how like Resident Evil 4 turned out. But it's just like crazy to think we would have had this like spooky gothic castle thing going on. But yeah, it was like canceled for many reasons, like one of them being that it was becoming like too actiony, which yes, the Resident Evil 4 version that we did end up getting is more action based, but it does still have that horror, but it must have turned way more actiony than they initially planned. And one version of the game actually got turned into Devil May Cry. Like that's where we got the Devil May Cry series in 2001, which is like really cool because I actually haven't played Devil May Cry yet, but like I really want to. And it's just amazing how like they took all the ideas from the original like Resident Evil 4 that they were gonna make and turned it into a completely different game. So that's pretty awesome. It was like also a version with like this creepy guy called like the Hook Man, and it was like a ghost guy, and he would like, Leon would have hallucinations and just like all this crazy shit. He'd be like seeing these ghosts and you couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't, which like sounds pretty cool and pretty spooky to me. And in both the hallucinating build and also the castle build, it was also set that Leon was going to be infected with some kind of virus which like caused these hallucinations and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that some of these monsters would have been like hallucinations like in his mind and like not being able to know what's real and what's not. It's just like so crazy. And there actually is like a playable version of one of the versions, like I believe like the castle version. So you can actually like play a demo of that now, which is like pretty crazy and it looks so cool. I watched so many videos on it and it's just amazing. And there was also a zombie version made, so there was going to be like a version of Resident Evil 4 with zombies in it. So yeah, there were like so many versions. Like it's just like crazy like how long it took them to get to the Resident Evil 4 that we love today. And I think it was all worth it because again, like one of my favorite games of all time. But it's like hard not to think like what would be, you know what I mean? And number 1 on my list, the most interesting Resident Evil game that got canceled, to me at least, is Resident Evil 1.5, which was going to be the original Resident Evil 2. This game was like pretty much almost finished already, but then the developers decided they just did not like it, and they pretty much scrapped the whole game and then made the Resident Evil 2 that we know and love today. Just like with the old Resident Evil 4, there is playable versions of this, so you can play it. Because again, the game was like pretty much almost done. So people have figured out ways to make the game playable. So it's awesome that's not completely lost or anything. Now, this game still starred Leon in it, which is great because we all know and love Leon. But originally, he was supposed to be like a veteran instead of a rookie, which is like pretty crazy, thinking like he'd be all like professional and whatnot, knowing what he's doing. But I love how they went with the whole idea of him being a rookie instead. Like literally his first day and the zombie apocalypse happens, like nuts. But yeah, he was in it, but Claire Redfield was not. Instead, we got another female protagonist named Elza Walker, and she seemed pretty cool and all, but I definitely prefer Claire Redfield. Like she's such a badass. I've cosplayed her before. Like she's just awesome. So yeah, that's what we ended up with, and I think it was for the best. But I'm just like so interested in this version, and it's like just so crazy how you could like pretty much completely finish a game and then just decide nah and just like completely remake it, and that's what they did. But I mean, I love Resident Evil 2 and I'm glad they did what they did. So yeah, that's my list of like the most interesting canceled Resident Evil games in my opinion. And yeah, let me know what the most interesting one was to you. It's just so crazy to think we could have had all these games, but we never did and might never get them ever. But it is what it is. There's so many great Resident Evil games out there that I do love and enjoy. And yeah, this series is just so near and dear to my heart. And yeah, that's pretty much my video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.